Me 27 lifelong feminist who always believed women are more compassionate than men. Spent years arguing that women form deeper emotional bonds and maintain better relationships, constantly pointing out how men abandon women when they get sick or old. Dad is 64, recently retired from successful career as electrical engineer. Mom died from cancer 2 years ago after 35-year marriage. Dad was devoted husband, took care of mom through entire illness without complaint. Drove her to every appointment, learned to cook her favorite meals when she lost appetite. Slept in hospital chair for weeks, never left her side during final days. Always assumed this was normal. That's just what good husbands do for wives. After mom's funeral, expected dad to grieve and then eventually start dating again. He's still attractive for his age, financially secure, owns house, good health. Figured women would be interested in stable, mature man with life experience. Dad seems lonely, living alone in house meant for family. Encourage him to get back out there, maybe try online dating or social activities. There are lots of wonderful women your age looking for companionship. Dad seems reluctant but agrees to try meeting people after a year of mourning. Starts attending senior center activities, church singles groups, community events. Joins hiking club for older adults, takes cooking classes, volunteers at library. Meets several women around his age, some divorced, some widowed like him. Initially things seem promising. He goes on few coffee dates and dinner outings. Tells me about Margaret, 58-year-old retired teacher, who seems really nice. They go out several times. She invites him to her book club, seems interested. Then suddenly she stops returning his calls. Won't explain what changed. Find out later through friend that Margaret met wealthier man who just retired. Apparently Dad's pension wasn't impressive enough compared to other options available. Next he meets Linda, 61-year-old widow, who lost husband year before mom died. They bond over shared experience of losing spouses, start spending time together. Linda seems genuinely caring, brings dad homemade meals, watches movies with him. Relationship develops over few months. Dad seems happier and less isolated. Then Linda's adult daughter moves back home after divorce with 2 young kids. Suddenly Linda has no time for dad. Cancels dates to babysit grandchildren. Family comes first, she explains, cutting off relationship entirely. Dad understands but feels used, like he was just placeholder until real priorities emerged. Tries online dating despite being uncomfortable with technology. Spends hours learning how to create profile, upload photos, write bio. Gets few matches with women in his age range. Most conversations fizzle quickly. Discovers that women his age typically want men 5 to 10 years younger, while men his age are often interested in women 10 to 15 years younger. This creates dating pool where everyone wants someone else, leaving people like dad invisible. Meets Patricia, 55-year-old divorced woman, who seems perfect match initially. She's educated, shares his interests, claims to want serious relationship. They date for 3 months. Dad starts developing real feelings for her. Then Patricia mentions that her ex-husband might want to reconcile. We have history together, shared investments. It would be easier to work things out. Drops dad immediately when financially advantageous option becomes available. Dad starts becoming cynical about women's motivations, something I never expected. They're all looking for security or convenience, not actual companionship. Explain that he's just meeting wrong women, that good ones exist who want real connection. Dad continues trying, but pattern repeats over and over with different women. Susan, 59, dates him until her adult son needs financial help with mortgage. Carol, 62, seems interested, until she finds out dad's house isn't fully paid off. Diane, 57, stops calling after learning dad has modest savings rather than wealth. Each relationship ends when woman finds better option, or dad fails to meet financial expectations. Start realizing that older women often view dating as practical arrangement rather than romance. They've been divorced or widowed, learned to prioritize security over emotional connection. Meanwhile, dad's male friends who are dating face similar challenges. Women their age want men with larger pensions, paid-off homes, expensive cars. Emotional compatibility matters less than financial stability and practical benefits. Dad's friend Robert gets rejected by women despite being kind, funny, intelligent. His crime is living in an apartment rather than owning house at age 67. Another friend, Tom, gets dropped when woman finds out he helps support disabled brother. Apparently, having financial obligations makes men less attractive partners. Start noticing how differently society treats single older men versus women. Older women are seen as dignified, independent, deserving of companionship. Older men are viewed as potential predators, desperate losers, or walking wallets. Media portrays older single women as empowered, while older single men are pathetic. Dad's loneliness becomes more apparent as he stops trying to date entirely. Spends evenings alone watching TV, reading books, working on home projects. Invites him over for dinner regularly, but can see he's becoming depressed. Realizes that after a lifetime of providing for others, he has no one to care for him. Mom's female friends who used to visit regularly have all disappeared. They were friendly when she was alive, but had no real connection to Dad. Assumed these women cared about him as person, turns out they just tolerated him. Dad's birthday arrives, only family members remember or acknowledge it. None of the women he dated send cards or messages despite months of relationship. Contrast this with how women's birthdays get celebrated by entire social networks. Start understanding that society expects men to give continuously but offers nothing in return. Dad spent decades being good provider, devoted husband, reliable community member. Now that he's no longer useful for major financial support, women ignore him. Even his own relatives only contact him when they need help with repairs or money. Watch Dad become increasingly isolated despite being intelligent, caring, interesting person. He has stories from decades of work experience, knowledge about history and culture, enjoys discussing books, movies, current events, has great sense of humor. But none of this matters to women who see him as potential burden rather than companion. Dad starts spending time with other single older men in similar situations. They form informal support network, helping each other with home maintenance and social needs. These men who society dismisses as worthless are actually taking care of each other. Meanwhile, women their age are joining social groups and complaining about lack of good men. The irony is that they have rejected perfectly good men for failing to meet arbitrary standards. Dad's health starts declining slightly. Nothing serious but typical aging issues. Immediately notice how this affects women's interest in him even further. Potential partners who might have considered him become completely unavailable. Women his age want men who can take care of them, not men who might need care. Realize that women's supposed natural caregiving instinct doesn't extend to older men. Society expects men to be caretakers until they die, but no one cares for them. Start researching statistics about older men's mental health and suicide rates. Discover that older men have highest suicide rates of any demographic group. They're isolated, dismissed by society, and have no support systems after retirement. Women live longer and maintain social connections. Men die alone and forgotten. Dad never complains about his situation, just accepts loneliness as part of aging. But I can see it's killing him slowly, destroying his confidence and will to live. Realize that everything I believed about women being more caring was wrong. Women are caring toward people who benefit them, just like everyone else. When men are no longer useful providers, they become invisible and disposable. Dad represents millions of older men who gave everything to others throughout their lives. Now society discards them like broken tools that no longer serve their purpose. My feminist worldview painted women as naturally more empathetic and loyal, and reality shows that women abandon men the moment they stop providing benefits. This isn't about individual women being bad people. It's about systemic devaluation. Society teaches women that men's worth comes from what they provide materially. When men can no longer provide at previous levels, they lose all social value. Start spending more time with Dad, trying to fill void left by everyone else. But realize that as his daughter, my attention doesn't replace peer companionship. He needs friends and potential romantic partners who see him as whole person. Instead, he's surrounded by people who view him as a collection of resources. Now, when other feminists talk about male privilege, I think about Dad's isolation. What privilege exists in being valuable only for what you can provide others? Dad worked his entire life supporting family and community without recognition. Now he's forgotten and alone because he's no longer maximally useful. Learn that true equality means valuing people for who they are, not what they give. Dad deserves companionship and care, regardless of his financial situation. But society has taught women to view men as means to ends rather than human beings.